I want to bring in my next guest, who is a friend, also the former Speaker of the House, the great Kevin McCarthy, who I had to track down and twist his arm to join me on the show today. And I appreciate you making time, Mr. Speaker, for the Will Cain Show.
Anything for you, Sean.
You are a sweetheart.
Hey,
All right.
I look what you're wearing today. You need like a little gold chain there. I see you got the shirt buttoned open, and
now I see you're still in a jacket and blue shirt.
that's
Some things
right.
don't
Hey, I'm
change.
working.
The king.
I am stuck. I'm stuck in a hotel. I just did an event in L.A. in Orange County. Then I'm going to be on my way to San Diego, raising money for the Republican Party, and then I'll fly back up to Bigger, do an event for David Valadeo tonight. We're going to grow this majority even bigger. I promise you.
And I want to get to that in a second. And by the way, you told me the schedule. I'm like, you can fit me in for 15 minutes, Mr. Speaker, and you did. I want to talk about that majority in just a second. But first, I just want to get your reaction to the Trump trial. The jury's now out, day two, deliberating on the fate of Donald Trump. What's your reaction to what's happened here?
My reaction, and you listen to the Democrats, democracy is on the ballot. Yes, it is, because they're putting Trump on the ballot in essence because they're putting him in court because they can't beat him on the outside. I mean, this is ludicrous. There is no crime. They can't tell you what the crime is. They go to and this is thing no one quite realized. This is the second most highest Democrat county in the entire country. Biden won this by 87%. They put a judge in that might as well be the prosecutor. It, you
Right.
you were a former DA. When have you ever heard a judge say, "Well, you don't have to have a unanimous belief here. I take four here, four there. We'll call it a day." You know, predetermined everything they want simply because they cannot beat this man. But when there was an interesting poll, and I think maybe it was CNN, and they asked the American public, just independent voters, not Republicans, not Democrats, who would be a greater threat to democracy? Would it be Biden if he had another 4 years? By 53% to 42, it was Biden. And this is exactly why they believe that. What they are doing is an atrocity.
And as a whole, I think the polling shows if all Americans are polled voters, it's about 50-50 threats to democracy. So this push that Democrats have made that Republicans and Donald Trump are a threat to democracy, it has backfired on them, which is why they're not using it anymore. I think it's interesting.
Just
There
like
hasn't been a
Biden
lot of coverage of
economics.
Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. Bidenomics is gone now too because that doesn't work either because inflation has been horrible. But you know, Donald Trump hasn't gotten a lot of media, right? He does these rallies, does the campaigns, but if you look at this trial, I think it's backfired against Democrats because
It
every
has.
day after trial, Donald Trump comes out and does a presser, and everybody covers it. And by the way, he's a great messenger. You always hear this is a witch hunt. He'll talk about the judge. He's on message all the time, but he's then talking about issues of the border, of inflation, of the economy, of foreign policy, Joe Biden's failure. This has been a platform for Donald Trump actually to get his message out when I think it was harder for him to get that message out before the trial. What say you?
It was. I mean, the one thing you see, the American public sees what this is, but more importantly, he is a great messenger. Think about what he's done
Yeah.
while he's at this trial. He goes to union hard hat workers. They're cheering him and saying, um, get rid of, let's go Brandon in the same place. You've watched what he's gone out to the firehouses. You watch that he goes to the Bronx. This is what's really telling. AOC went crazy because he's going to the Bronx. Bronx is going to be blue. In 1980, if you watched Ronald Reagan went to the Bronx, Ronald Reagan got booed there. This is going to be an
Right.
unbelievable election. I think you're going to see states that have never gone Republican are going to go for Trump. Doesn't mean they're going Republican, but means they're going for Trump because they see what is happening. The American public knows the only reason he is in trial is because his last name is Trump and he's running for president. Had he not been running for president, he would never be there today.
No, yeah, you're right. If his name was Donald Trump, he wouldn't be there. So many people know you as the former Speaker of the House. They don't know that you are probably the greatest political mind that served in the House in I don't know how long. And I think you're right. I think that I don't know that Donald Trump's going to win places like New Jersey or New York, but what he might do is he might force Democrats to spend money to preserve New York and New Jersey and other states And that means they don't have money or as much money for Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan. And so on this point, I want to talk to you about what's going to happen in the coming election. So Republicans are going to go back to their districts and they're going to ask to be reelected. There's going to be candidates who've never been on the ballot. They're going to say, listen, I want to go to Congress. I'm a Republican. I want to fight for freedom, democracy, lower taxes, less inflation, stronger foreign policy. And the problem, I think, is if you're an American, you'll look at our conference, the Republican conference, where I served with you. You go, this is the most dysfunctional band of idiots, and I say that with a lot of passion and love because I love the men and women we served with. But what the hell is going on? How do you make the argument to reelect people where we spent all this time, or they spent all this time ousting you, trying to find a new speaker? It's been a disaster.
Yeah, well, but you can't judge all of them. It was only 8, right? So you're talking 4% of the conference with every Democrat. So 8 Republicans want to work with all the Democrats. If you really want to change Congress, change those 8 and change those Democrats. And look, this next election, I think you ought to look at the last election first, okay? In the last election for president, because we elect him by electoral college, Joe Biden won by 48,918 votes. That's not a lot of votes, okay? But if you look at where his polling was, his approval rating, favorability rating was plus 10. Now it's minus 20. If you look at the latest poll by CNN, when they say, was President Trump's presidency successful policy-wise? 55% say yes. Donald Trump's polling. And you're right about Democrats going to have to play in other states. When Ronald Reagan won in '84, he won 49 states. He didn't win Minnesota. I believe Minnesota is going to become in play. And so when you start expanding the playing field, it's much different for the Democrats. And remember, when Joe Biden ran last time for president, it was the first time since 1994, not one Republican incumbent in Congress lost. Unheard of. So Trump brings turnout. And if you look at the polling right now, Trump leads the Republicans in those states. And Biden is actually, the Democrat senators are ahead of Biden in those states. And no president has had this low of favorability rating at this point in time before re-election. Today, Joe Biden put a lid on it at 9:38. Donald Trump will sit in a courtroom, talk to the press twice. When the court's over at 8 o'clock at night, he'll work the phones. He'll go someplace else. He'll get on a plane, end another place, and have 5 more rallies. I mean, and he'll show up at the weekend at a Formula One where America's at, or into a baseball game, and go to places. He's going to Democrat places that Biden can't even go to. I want Biden to go to the Bronx and see who turns out and see what happens in response to it. That's the difference. America wants somebody working for him.
Or have them go to a bodega and see how many people come outside that bodega to rally on behalf of Joe Biden. Exactly. I would imagine no one really shows up. So I'm going to talk about what's going to happen.
That's a key point here.
Go ahead.
But this is what Trump is so good at. Trump just going to the bodega sets a tone. 1, he cares, but 2, about the Democrats' crime policy throughout America. So it's not just in New York, it's everywhere. When he goes to another place, he shows, in Massachusetts, there's not one Republican congressman from Massachusetts. But do you know what the governor called his state of emergency there? The southern border. What Biden has done, New York City, if you ask the mayor the number 1 issue, he'll say the southern border. The governor of New York, the southern border, all caused by Biden. And everybody knows Trump will secure it the moment he gets in office. He knows by going to the bodega that your streets will be safe again. He's sending you a very clear message. You could talk to foreign leaders. They tell you the world is in disarray. What do we need? They say, you elect Donald Trump again, the world will be calm. Because you know what? The one president that Putin never invaded another country was during Donald Trump's term. Those 4 years. Right. The only time Putin did invade someone else. We've had 5 embassies evacuated under Biden. I mean, this has been a disaster, and I think people are hungry for this. And when they see them playing the court system against justice just to try to keep somebody off the ballot, it only makes people more intense to turn out to vote.
More angry. And I think what's important, and again, I had the pleasure to serve with you in the House, and I love my time serving there. What I think is a fair analysis of the Republican Party and members who serve is everyone thinks they have the best set of ideas. They're the smartest
Yes.
person with the best ideas in the room, which means you get this friction, and that friction oftentimes can be really good because you get the best policy. Democrats, they're just a bunch of cats that will, follow, the Nancy Pelosi lead cat, and they all get on board. And so I think it is important, to your original point, that we have a bigger Republican majority. They actually have a Republican majority because otherwise you're going to see more impeachments of Donald Trump. But you need a manageable majority
Yes.
where you can actually get things done. If you have, 8 or 15 crazies, you still have people that can come together and work on behalf of conservative philosophical principles. So as you look at that, and you look at Joe Biden's approval ratings, again, you said he was up 10 in 2020. He's down 20 right now. What does that mean for this coming election? Is the House going to pick up how many seats?
It is easier for the House to win seats for Republicans in the House this cycle than it was the last two cycles. Now, I've been leader for
It is.
5 years. I'm one of the only leaders that have gained seats every single time. They said I'd lose 15 seats, didn't lose one, actually beat 15 Democrats. And this is why. You've had redistricting in North Carolina. So Republicans will pick up 3 seats right there. Democrats thought they'd redistrict New York. They pretty much only got 1 seat. They got Alabama, and Louisiana. This is unbelievable malpractice what happened in Louisiana. Republicans control all. We have our number one and number two people from the House. They gave a seat up in Louisiana. That could be the majority if you're not smart.
Yeah.
But you look at like Michigan, Slotkin, we came close to beating her. She's running for the Senate. We'll win that seat. You look at Spanberger in Virginia. She's leaving. We came close to beating her. We'll win that seat. We've got another two in California. You look at Alaska. 63% vote for the Republican, but they have the rank system, don't get there. You look at Maine. Maine and Nebraska are the only two states that go their electoral votes by congressional district. It's not the entire state. Trump wins one of them up there by 10. We've got a great guy, Austin, who's a former NASCAR driver. He's going to pick up there. I look at Ohio. We had the wrong candidate last time, so we lost that seat. Trump's going to carry Ohio. We'll pick up there. I think we could pick up 10 to 12 seats pretty easily in Congress, and that'll make a real difference. Also, if you shift out, like Donald Trump just came out and he endorsed John McGuire in Virginia's race against Bob Good. And remember what Bob Good did. On the day that Trump got held in one of his trials by one of the juries, Bob Good went and endorsed against Donald Trump, right? John McGuire is a Navy SEAL, a state senator. That would be someone who would work with Trump, right? And then within the Nancy Mace race, you could do the same thing. So if you take those 8 and change them where they're not working with Democrats, they're working with Republicans, and you add 10 more, you've got a lot of power. Think about how much we did in the first 9 months. The strongest border security bill in history,
Right.
a parent's bill of rights, an energy security bill. We cut $2 trillion, reformed welfare. I mean, these are the things that could accomplish. And I watched all the conservative things you would do in the House, and you came from a seat that a Democrat held since before we landed on the moon. So a lot of people
That's
wouldn't
right.
even think about running. You took the risk and you proved and you turned that district to show them what conservative ideas and policies could make their life better.
Well, and I just to put a period on that point, you were helpful to me. One of the first members of Congress that helped me when I ran, and you were only there, I think, 2 or 4 years before me. All these members know who you are. I think you've probably been to every Republican member's district, helping them raise money. You're doing that again, as you said tonight, for one of our friends and colleagues who has a tough seat, David Valadeo in California, and that's why you made a point on what was done in the first 9 months of your speakership, which is really remarkable, because you see how hard it has been for Speaker Johnson to manage this crew of Republicans, and all that you got done because of the relationships that you have, the knowledge that you have, and the care and heart you have for everyone in the conference. It was a remarkable set of accomplishments in a really tough, small, slim majority that you did very well. I'm proud of that 9 months. I'm proud to call you a friend, and I'm proud that you're still out there, Speaker McCarthy, still helping the party and those
We have
members
to.
that you care about
You
so
know,
much.
you know what I love? When the day I became minority leader, Nancy Pelosi became speaker. So in those 4 years, we ended up winning the majority by 5 seats. You know how many seats we won in California in those 5 years? 5 seats. We beat Nancy Pelosi's speakership in our home state. So I've been on the road here in California, and I think that's where the majority lies. They're trying to come after our current members in California. So I was in LA raising money for the party yesterday, Orange County yesterday. I'll be in San Diego today and back in Bakersfield tonight for the individual candidates. And so I just think it's so important for this nation. If we don't have a bigger majority in the House for Donald Trump, they're going to try to impeach him. They're going to try to slow down our ability to secure the border, our ability to make this country stronger, energy independent, give parents a say in their kids' education. There's so much potential. America's too great to think so small and have somebody like Joe Biden as president.
That's exactly right. And you're always, you never miss the opportunity to make the point that though we all might dump on California, we all complain about California, how crazy and woke it is. You make the point that you would not have the majority but for California and probably New York. Those two states
we
combined
won five
together.
seats in New York.
Yeah, I mean, it's these two liberal states where we've had the greatest growth as a party.
And Lori Chavez Dreamer, we won in Oregon, trying to win that seat for 3 years. Juan Ciscomani on the border of Arizona. You know, the thing you got to think about in the House, when Republicans were losing the Senate for 2 cycles, we were gaining, right? The quality of candidates, right? And people thought, I mean, the country owes you a great deal of gratitude and thanks because you ran against somebody, the chairman of appropriations. You know how powerful that is. The guy's been in here since we landed on the moon. People were afraid to get up and walk and talk to him, right? Like, oh my God, he's going to yell at me. And you were fearless. You just said, look, his policies are wrong. And at the end of the day, you literally scared him into retirement and picked up a seat when people didn't. And I watched that as I go across the country. When you think of a Juan Ciscomani, a John James, Michelle Steele, Young Kim, Lori Chavez Dreamer, these are people that are in tough seats, but they're also, a lot of people think, you're a Republican? You're not supposed to be a Republican, if you have a different color skin. What do you mean? I'm an American that believes in family, that believes in the border, that believes in fiscal responsibility, believes in a strong defense. And you know what? That cuts across every place. And the interesting thing, like in Biden's numbers now, he's losing the youth vote. That hasn't happened since Reagan.
Right. Yes.
The Hispanic vote. This is where you and your Rachel has been so cute. Before Rachel was ever on TV, she was out there working the Hispanic community for us, and everybody dreamed that this would be a possibility. Well, the first Mexican-born woman ever elected to Congress is a Republican. Maya's running again, right? And we're winning along those border states. That's because our policies are better.
And the policies are better, but you also did a great job of going, we're not going to come in from Washington, D.C. and try to pick who we think is the best candidate. You organically got the best candidates that reflected the districts, but also had the right, philosophy and in theory about how we should govern. They were conservatives. Again, Juan Ciscomani, I met him when he was running. You introduced me to him, and I'm like, that guy's impressive. And he won the seat. Young Kim in California. Again, people who match their districts, who are great conservatives. But that was not always the case. I mean, you were the driver of that policy of going, we're not going to decide. The districts will decide, but we've got to have people who reflect their communities. And that was the Kevin McCarthy change.
You look at Kevin Lincoln. Kevin Lincoln happens to be African-American and Hispanic. He is the mayor of Stockton. He was a Marine for Marine One. He ran for mayor, never being elected before. This is a city that's a Democratic city in California, overwhelming. He wins it, right? Takes out an incumbent mayor. He's running for Congress today. A lot of people say, "What? He's going to win." What you do is you find good people, you ask them why they want to run, and then you give them the support they need, and the community will actually get behind them.
And this one last point on that, Kevin McCarthy he told me and he tells everybody, if you do your work, if you work your districts and you raise the money, you will not be left behind. But don't think that, and someone else is going to come in and save you. We as Republicans believe in you doing the work, and then we'll add to it. And again, that's how you see these candidates. They're out raising money. They're trying to get into the Young Guns program, which you started with Eric Cantor and Paul Ryan. where money helps our campaigns. But it's been a smart philosophy and philosophical change. Kevin McCarthy, I know I'm over time with you. I appreciate you taking a little time off the road between fundraisers and road travel to join me on the Will Cain Show. You have been a great friend and an example of what Republican leadership should look like. Thank you so much.
Well, it's an honor to be with you. And I know Father's Day is coming up, and I hope the children get you a gold chain with a little Sean on it. It'll look good on your neck.
I'm looking for my Father's Day present from Kevin McCarthy. He never stops giving you garbage. Kevin McCarthy.
All right, brother.
I'll get the gold chain for you next time. All right, man.